I guess my first question is, if I was a parent with a child with special needs, I don't know anything, I feel kind of lost. What should I know in regards to your field? Just what are some, you can give a quick fire response if you feel like that's kind of appropriate or whatever. What should I
Sure.
know?
ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, is evidence-based, research-based treatment. So there are a ton of things going on out there. And also at Stepping Stones, I do not discount any of those because, like I said, I feel like every child is an individual, and it may be a dietary, change that means the world to your family. I'm not going to say that that's not real to you and that's not effective. However, if you want to look at generalized, progress and responses, and what's been researched out over many, many, many years to be effective treatment and help for different intellectual issues, especially autism. To be particular, ABA is your go-to. ABA is funded through insurance because it is seen as a medical treatment for some issues or some diagnosis that have behavioral issues. So, there's a lot of money that goes into that. There's a lot of research and backing that goes into that, so much that even insurance companies are like, we are going to pay for this as a treatment because it works. So that would be the thing that I would say about applied behavior analysis.
Okay, perfect. My next question is, when should a parent seek help? And I know that that's kind of like, the question depends on the child themselves and their specifics and their needs. But can you give me like kind of a general answer for that?
Yeah, general answer. As a parent, I would say when you have a concern. So I would say as a parent, be honest with yourself and know yourself. We've all heard about and even seen funny little, skits about having your first child, how you're so paranoid and you're so like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So
Right.
what I would say is know yourself. If this is your first child, this is your first parenting experience, maybe you're an only child yourself, or there's a pretty big gap between your siblings that you didn't really get to see them grow up, and you're concerned, I would say reach out to a family member or a friend that you feel like is going to be honest with you about, no, your kid's fine, or no, you know what, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm a little, I think, so I would say to reach out for confirmation, not from your spouse or your significant other, or the other parent of the child, because sometimes we just get wrapped up in our own kids so much, and that's all we see. But reach out to a safe person that knows your family and knows your child. I also say reach out to a family member or a friend of the family, because those are individuals that maybe they'll say it, maybe they won't, but they'll just be like, no, your kid's just spoiled because you're just like a parent that spoils your child, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so they're probably going to give you that very honest feedback if there is someone that you feel comfortable with. Do not reach out to somebody that you feel like is just going to now be judging you or making you feel worse about the situation. So I would definitely say as soon as you're concerned, reach out. I mean, I really don't see any reason to not. I would say be very mindful and careful about reaching out to the internet, unless it is going to be to some type of site that, CDC or something like that, where you're finding just, okay, what are milestones of my child at this age? I definitely encourage that for parents, for you to actually, find milestones, my kid at this age, and just see how your kid measures up. There's nothing wrong with you asking your pediatrician, with you making an appointment, or on your appointment actually saying, hey, this is what I'm experiencing or not experiencing with my kid. I'm concerned about it. Now, be mindful that my first advice is to reach out to somebody that knows your family and your child well, because your pediatrician sees your kid maybe 15 minutes every 6 months. You know what I mean? If even that. And so they're just getting a snapshot of whoever your kid is when they walk into this different setting, and your kid may have behaviors on because they know I get shots here, or they may have behaviors off because they know I get a cool Band-Aid and a sticker here,
Right.
or whatever. So they're not going to have as as full a view of who your child is based on the family dynamic, the way that your parenting style is, as someone much closer to you. But it does not hurt for you to tell your pediatrician or your family care physician, this is going on, I'm concerned about this. Now, I will say, when you do that, put yourself in the doctor's shoes. Now, the doctor is going to think, is this a paranoid parent? Now, think about, when my kid goes there, do they show these behaviors? Because sometimes it's a little hard for a doctor to believe your kid is banging his head against the wall and screaming nonstop when every time he goes there, he doesn't say anything. You know what I mean? Or he's on his perfect behavior, you know. So be mindful of that. What I do advise parents is, I advise parents when, you know, if you've checked in with your family or friend and you're like, hey, I think I need to elevate this, I would suggest that you actually take a journal of what your kid is doing. Date, time, you know, banged his head on the wall 7 times as watching cartoons, you know, date, time, you know, peed in his pants for no reason and he's 7 years old, you know, date, time, whatever. Do that. And also, if there are any outstanding behaviors, take a video. Don't make like a 5-minute video, but take a video, clip it down to maybe 30 seconds, 20 seconds, so that when you do go to your physician, you're able to tell them your experience, tell them what you're seeing, tell them what you're thinking and feeling, but you're also able to give them some hard data. You're able to, you know, give them a page that has 10 different days and times of what you're concerned about, and, you know, show them a video of, no, look, my kid does act out, you know, and you know, because most likely the kid's not going to turn it on because you talk to the doctor and, okay, do it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I think all of this information will really help the doctor to be able to either move you forward, you know, with a referral or advice even, or to let you know, hey, I just saw that video. I got to tell you, that is a little bit extreme, but you know what? I've seen kids do that. My own kids do that. Da, da, da. So I guess the short answer is, I feel like if as a parent you're concerned, then it's within your rights and responsibility of your child for you to seek information at that time, you know, right away. You don't have to wait, and you shouldn't wait. You shouldn't have to think about, oh my gosh, I don't want to say this. I might sound crazy. I might sound paranoid. Who cares? You know, early intervention is found to be the best approach for any child. I explain it to parents as this: if you wait until your kid is 5 years old and they're still doing the same behavior they were doing that was inappropriate at 3, you just gave your kid an extra 2 years of practicing and building that habit. So it's honestly kind of much worse, you know, for you as a parent to now say, oh no, now let's break that habit. And it's so much harder than if you catch it at the beginning.
That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. My third question is, are there ways a parent can help the child in the home environment with regards to your field? And I know specifically with your case, so much of, you know, your profession is involved specifically with that. So you don't have to give any like specific pointers, because that wouldn't be super relevant, but any just like major overarching tips.
Yes, major and overarching. Learn how your child learns. So, you know, once you do get to the point of, my child is different, they have this diagnosis, what that means, that does not mean that your child is not capable. That does not mean that they're not intelligent. That does not mean that they're not able or don't have potential. But what it means most specifically to a parent is, it means the understanding, my child learns in a way that is very different than their environment is used to teaching them. So if you have more than one child, you'll probably realize, and I've had parents over and over and over tell me, my kid didn't learn this way the same way my other kids did. I did this with kid 1, 2, 3. It's not working on this one. I did this with kids 2, 3, 4. It's not working with this one. Why? And so a lot of effort and time can be spent on trying to make your child learn in the way that everybody else learns. But that's not going to be very successful, and it's going to be most frustrating to your child and to you. What's better, and what I always try to train parents on, and even my staff and myself, is it's my job to learn how this child learns. And once I learn how they learn, then I manipulate their environment so that their environment now teaches them in the way that they learn, including their teachers. But that's not where it stops. we go forward into now the parent understands, well, my child learns better from visuals, and so we're going to add a visual with this. Teacher understand my child learns better from visual, so we're going to add visuals with that. But and that's a really great place to be, but the ultimate place to be is to now teach the child, I learn better with visuals, so I am going to ask for a visual, I am going to create a visual, I am going to look for a visual. And that's just an example of, you know, like different type of learning style. So learn how your child learns, and learn how to teach them in that way, and be mindful of how you're going to now teach your child how they learn, and that it's different, and for them to now learn, how do I access this type of learning style or this type of learning way that's different than most.
Definitely, that makes a lot of sense. Great advice. My last question is, would you be willing to share a story of triumph or success that would be kind of encouraging to the listeners? And that would be like in regards to, you know, one of your clients or patients.
Sure, sure. So this is actually one that I didn't think about, just because there are so many. There's so many.
Oh, I'm sure. And you
Yeah.
can take your time kind of thinking about one.
Okay. Okay. So this was many years ago. So there was a kid, a young man, and he actually began to get service when he was 16 years old. And at this point, he is not verbal, and he has very intense aggression. And his mother has diabetes. His father works outside of the home. And I believe he had a younger sister, but not too much younger, like in high school. And so his aggression, you know, got him called, you know, sent home a lot from school. He wasn't allowed to ride the bus anymore. And he didn't have any communication. He didn't have verbal communication. He didn't have any type of device that he was using, or even picture cards or PECs or anything, sign language, nothing. And so the mom and dad finally decided to get service, only because he was so aggressive. So they had resolved, hey, he's who he is, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. You know, he's going to be in school until he's 22, and then we'll put him in this program or whatever. But the mom's health was failing, and his response to anything he didn't want to do or did want to have or do was aggression. And he would grab the mom's arm really, really tight, and sometimes push her. And so when I came in, this was a little overwhelming. I mean, the kid reminded me of somebody that plays football. He was just really big and
Right.
by looks very intimidating. But get this, he was still in a diaper. And so, you know, when I come in, this is a challenging situation. And this is one of those extremes where it's like, oh my gosh, parents, why didn't you call sooner? And the parents were literally like, hey, we thought maybe he would grow out of it, because, you know, a family member was a little bit slow and delayed. And, you know, eventually they came around. And I think on the parents' part, it was a bit denial, you know, not wanting to really face that you know, their kid had to deal with this, and this was a different family situation than they expected. But anyways, got called in. My first go-to was like, we have to give him communication. And so, you know, we started off with PECs and a communication board and that sort of thing. And one day, you know, during session, the young man has an accident. So he brings his diaper over to mom, and mom takes him upstairs. And I always imagined or thought that, you know, he would take it off or something like that. So, you know, several months in, I'm like, hey, you know, let's see what this diapering situation is like. And to my surprise, the kid lays on the floor just like a baby, puts his feet up in the air, and his mom has to change him like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. And the mom was talking about, you know, her health and how bad things were getting. And so I was able to facilitate potty training to this, you know, at this time now 17-year-old, so that he was able to, you know, so we actually started with like not knowing how far it would be able to get based on his compliance and his behaviors and that sort of thing. Started with, okay, well, at least if you're able, he's able to, comply with you while he's standing, that's a lot better on you, mom, than having to get on the floor or on your knees and all this sort of thing. So we worked on that, kind of like shaping up to him actually changing his own diaper. We got him to the point where he would change his own diaper. We didn't get him to the point of initiating, but putting him on a schedule, as far as like every 2 hours, he's staying dry. And, we know that he needs to go at this time, and he would be in the bathroom when he goes and able to change his own diaper. And finally, we were able to get him toilet trained, so that still not initiating, but he's able to hold it and go when he's, allowed to go in the bathroom, and not be in diapers anymore. The parents didn't have to continually buy adult diapers. The mom didn't have to, go through this physical activity of changing his diapers. And then, we were also able to get him to learn to communicate using AAC device. So once he got from the PECs and the communication board, that was a pivotal point in being able to go to the school and say, hey, he is able to communicate, and then the school was able to provide that communication technology for him. And so he had gotten to the place where, when we ended with him in about, I think it was about 9 or 10 months, they actually, lost their insurance or something like that. So we were no longer available to them. But we were able to get him to the point where he was able to go to his mom or dad or sister, ask for what he wanted, based on his device, and, not have to wear diapers anymore and be changed anymore. I have tons of stories of younger kids. But those are things that, you've probably heard and seen. But when a kid comes in, or an individual that is so old, sometimes, and they're aggressive, sometimes it looks very, very bleak as far as like, what are we going to be able to do?
Of course.
Are we able to teach him anything? Are we going to be able to actually get him to do anything? So that's, that's the only reason that this is more triumphant.
Yeah.
And then getting past that aggression was I had some really great staff to stick it out and not be intimidated by him.
Right.
But yeah, thank God.
Super interested in your story of not just your professional career, but also starting your own business. It sounds like such a phenomenal business plan. I'm really impressed with it. I hope that people go and visit.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Every day is a new challenge. But I tell my staff and I tell myself, and I never thought I'd be a business owner. Literally, I looked at a 3-page resume, being ready to go to another company. And my husband's like, yeah, I don't think anybody's going to do it the way that you think it needs to be done. And I was
right.
like, oh. But I never planned to be a business owner. But my business philosophy, or my company philosophy, is whatever the client needs to progress and to do better. And so that's what drives everything. And amazingly, that keeps me centered and not in a place of, taking in more clients than we can handle, or not in a place of just doing the minimum, for that family and for that kid. I always think about the fact that, like, and just to kind of go back a little bit to my story, one of my biggest drives is that even though my sister had special needs, and the adopted sister, even though she had special needs, that was known from day one. She was always in special ed classes. She had a diagnosis of intellectual delay. She never got help. And I always think about what if. And so when I meet a client and when I meet a kid, I tell my staff, I say, we need to work with this kid. Whereas if they don't have service next week for some reason, they move or insurance cancels, or all of a sudden this disability is no longer a thing that, is covered, are we going to be very happy and very proud of every single day that we've spent with them? Have we put them in the best place we can every single day, and not wasted their time? And now they're able to continually move forward because of the foundation and the work that we've done on a daily basis. We're not just, running down the time or clocking in, and I always think back to, what if my sister had gotten help? And what if my parents had gotten support? How much different her life would have been, um, how much more of her potential, she's still around, but honestly, not, I don't think she's where she could have been, if she had have gotten the support. And I do not want to be one counted in the end as, you were there, but you just took up space. You just wasted time and
Mm,
you didn't really help.
absolutely. I do not think from anything I've heard that you'll be listed as someone in that category. I mean, so impressive. The things you've been able to accomplish, the vision you have, very inspiring for me, and I'm sure for the listeners as well. So thank you so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate it.